And 6 months after delivering this year's budget, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana returning to Parliament to give the nation an update on its purse, on spending as well as future plans for the next 3 years. Arabile is in Parliament to see if there is a positive story to tell after all of this year's budget challenges. Arabile, so I've set the scene there just a little bit.
Is for sure.
Sorry, setting the scene
We're
there.
missing this connection thing onto a little bit.
It's because we haven't been together for quite a while, but we have had a year of challenges and we certainly are chasing economic growth. Is this the medium-term budget that is going to foreshadow what comes in the official big budget next February that will set us on the right path?
Yeah, so that's kind of the hope and the theme, really, because what you're getting, Iman, is a clear sense that the big decisions need to be made in February. And this one is kind of just used to update, to adjust, to perhaps re-look at things. The growth rate that is anticipated for South Africa for this year was 1.4%, according to the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana back in May when he did deliver Budget 3.0. But that figure is expected to even be revised, and it may even be downward. On the other side, however, you do have other banks anticipating that you have a growth and an uptick in how much revenue we've been able to take in, which could actually be a good omen for South Africa when it comes to further investment in the country, the ability to actually do a little bit more. So the projections for our revenue over the next couple of years, tax income, the amount that we give with regards to our taxes, could actually increase over the next couple of years, which then means government has a little bit more money to actually do the things it's meant to, whether it be social grants, healthcare, schooling, all the elements that we talk about on the show. But it's going to be keen to understand how exactly this budget has been flowing, also in cooperation with the rest of the GNU. Let's remember that the big tie-up in February was the fact that the GNU didn't necessarily agree with all the aspects of the budget, especially that VAT increase. And if that is to come into the conversation again, could this be the time when Enoch Godongwana decides to foreshadow, to perhaps push forward and suggest that something like this could happen? Let's speak to someone now who knows this very well. COSATU's Parliamentary Speaker, then Matthew Parks, joining us right now. Mr. Parks, thank you so much for the time. Let's quickly unravel this, shall we, for our audience. Where do you expect Minister Enoch Godongwana to really tinker the most, if anywhere at all?
Good morning. Thanks for having us, and apologies for not being able to join you at Parliament. Well, I think just to bear in mind, this is not a new budget. This is the halfway point reflection of the budget that was passed a few months ago at Parliament. So really, I think the major thing is for the Minister to report back to Parliament, to society, how far is government with regards to implementing the existing budget? How many teachers, doctors, nurses, police officers have they appointed? How far are they with regards to rebuilding public services, to stabilizing municipalities, to unlocking state-owned enterprises? How far are they with regards to expediting the infrastructure investment program, stimulus into the economy, relief to the poor, to the unemployed, etc. So really a report back. But I think also, Arabile, it's also critical that the budget shouldn't be just static, because the economy isn't static. We've seen many companies struggling because of the 30% tariffs imposed on South African exports to the US. We've seen many industrial sectors and companies, smelters and so on, struggling because of the increasingly unaffordable price of electricity. So we hope to hear what exactly is the package of relief measures going to be given by government to struggling companies, to struggling workers, to really taking the economy from 1% to the 3% we need to begin to reduce the high levels of unemployment of 42%. So I think for us, those are the key things. But also there's a chance to report back on the progress made by the South African Revenue Service, which we think is going to give us some good news today. There's been real progress in rebuilding SARS over the past few years under the current administration, from the decade of state capture and madness. And I think rebuilding SARS is critical because if you don't have money, it makes it very difficult to fund the various commitments we have to take care of as a society. So we're hopeful that there'll be some good news on SARS, and that can lay a positive foundation for next year's budget. But I think for us, really, it shouldn't be a business as usual approach. It should be about how do we grow the economy, how do we fix the state, how do we create jobs?
Yeah, it's always been the same conversation, ensuring that it's not business as usual. But let's remember that it wasn't business as usual even earlier this year. And of course, your point about this not being the same budget as earlier this year, it's really the halfway point, but also looking at the next 3 years as well as a country. Do you think that the GNU had a major part to play in the kind of conversation that was had on the updates so far, on the, even if it's the slight adjustments that need to be made from this budget for the rest of the next 3 years and even for this financial year?
Yeah, look, I think your point is right. I mean, the budget is a 3-year cycle. This is largely about adjustments here and there. And yes, the cabinet has to find its rhythm to work. South Africans, irrespective of their political sympathies, and obviously ours lies with the ANC, but irrespective of who you vote for, you expect government to work. You expect government to make sure that there's no queues at Home Affairs, to make sure that our police have the resources needed to defeat crime, to make sure our hospitals are working, our roads are paved, water can be reaching to villages and to townships, etc. So hopefully government has learned some lessons, some useful lessons from the chaos that we saw with 3 budgets this year. We would not want to see that happening again. We would not want to find ourselves in a scenario where you find many European countries or even the US currently, where Parliament can't pass a budget. That we can't afford. Not only have so many dire socio-economic challenges facing society, workers, the nation across the board. So we're hopeful that they will begin to find the rhythm, and also to appreciate that society is impatient. Society expects to see the economy growing, expects to see jobs being created, crime being dealt with, and public services working smoothly. And that's what politicians have got to bear in mind. The budget isn't an exercise in bean counting and balancing books. It's about improving the lives of ordinary South Africans.
Yeah.
This is the most critical tool the state has, and it should exploit that.
Yeah, let me ask just one final one here. And obviously, VAT was the big talking point at the beginning of this year. Do you think that he could foreshadow and a look at VAT in February? Because that would be very important for the markets. It would be very important for South African citizens and, of course, for the GNU to begin that discussion, as it were. Or do you think that we've see those good news that possibly could come from SARS, as you made note of, as an aspect that could help us get more revenue so we don't have to increase that VAT at any stage?
So I think society across the board, whether it's political parties in parliament, whether it's COSATU, civil society, said, I think society was quite clear a few months ago, there can't be any VAT increase. There's no need for a VAT increase. I think for us, the better option was simply to give SARS the resources it needs to improve tax compliance, not to introduce existing taxes. It doesn't make sense to bring new taxes on board if you don't enforce the existing tax laws. And SARS has done well. They managed to increase tax compliance from 61 to about 66% over the past few years under the current commissioner and his team. We should be saying how to reach a 75% tax compliance over the next 3 years. What are the resources you need? Write a blank check and then hold SARS accountable in that regard, because it doesn't make sense to squeeze the nurse or the teacher or the clothing worker who pay taxes, and we ignore large sections of the economy, often very wealthy individuals who know how to exploit the system. That doesn't make sense. But I think that SARS has done well. The staff have really done excellent work there. Yeah. I don't think that would be necessary. And in fact, what we would want to see is that as SARS begins to improve its performance, we begin to ease the tax burden upon the working class parts of society, the low income workers, those in the bottom tax thresholds, who are really suffocating on tax increases through the back door. We haven't adjusted the tax brackets for 2 years. That in effect is a tax increase. And I think we really want to see us moving towards a place where we can actually begin to ease the burden upon the most poor parts of society.
Yeah. Matthew Parks, we hope you actually also are very well. And I know you said you would have loved to have joined us here in Parliament. Unfortunately, not happening, but would hopefully chat to you very soon. Matthew Parks from COSATU, they're helping us just unravel what it could be, what the anticipation is, and